Marshall Peak, Chapter 5869. The enemy approaches. Marshall Peak, hence. Ye brought out the speech he had prepared in advance. Sir, the human race army is taking an extremely aggressive approach. I'm sure they are fighting with everything they have. Moreover, based on my understanding of the human race, the no-return pass is not their true goal. If they manage to conquer the no-return pass, they will definitely dispatch their army towards the primordial heavens source grand restriction. The primordial heavens source grand restriction. Mo's expression darkened at those words. The primordial heavens source grand restriction was the origin of the Black Ink clan. It was understandable for the human race to attack the no-return pass, especially since the no-return pass originally belonged to them. The Black Ink clan had simply occupied this land for the past several thousands of years. However, the fact that the humans planned to use the no-return pass as their stepping stone to launch an offensive against the primordial heavens source grand restriction enraged Mu. The humans are too arrogant. We currently have many pseudo-royal lords among our ranks, so we are perfectly capable of defending and holding the no-return pass. Not to mention, we also have the support of the two of the Supreme One's soul clones. It will not be easy for the human race army to conquer the no-return pass. Ye cautioned Mu. There is no need to be concerned about the ordinary members of the human race, but I hope you do not forget about Yang Kai, sir. It's true that we currently have many pseudo-royal lords among our ranks, but the situation on the battlefield can change in the blink of an eye. If Yang Kai was given the chance, there is no guarantee that the pseudo-royal lords would be able to survive a sneak attack from him. Upon hearing that name, Mu's expression darkened even more as he couldn't help recalling the battle from several thousand years ago. When the Black Ink clan invaded the 3,000 worlds back then, they had forced the humans back into a mere dozen or so great territories. With such a glorious achievement, it seemed as though they could exterminate the human race with just a little more effort. That was the era when the innate territory lords had been locked in conflict with the Eighth Order Masters. At the critical juncture, though, Yang Kai had abruptly appeared out of nowhere, wielding a strange secret technique that harmed both himself and the enemy at the same time. He caused panic among the innate territory lords scattered across the various battlefields. In the end, he even managed to force the Black Ink clan to concede and sign a series of truces on the condition that he would no longer attack them. These agreements had given the human race some breathing room. Now, that person who overturned the entire situation between the human race and the Black Ink clan by himself had advanced to the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm. There was no denying that the Black Ink clan currently boasted a large number of pseudo-royal lords, but based on Yang Kai's previous battle records, it was clear those pseudo-royal lords had no means to protect themselves from him whatsoever. His interference alone had caused the Black Ink clan to lose 8 pseudo-royal lords in E5 territory. The current situation could be said to be even worse than the one in the past. A few thousand years ago, Yang Kai had relied upon his strange secret technique that harmed both himself and the enemy to carry out his attacks. As a result, he had always needed to recuperate for some time after each strike. Now, however, he no longer had such scruples. The goal of the human race army has never been the no-return pass. Now that they have dispatched their troops, they must be confident they will obtain the ultimate victory. If we wish to gain the upper hand under these circumstances, then we must change our approach from being passive to aggressive. We must strike a crushing blow while the human race army is on the march. Otherwise, they will only become harder to defeat once they establish themselves outside the no-return pass. Mu fell into deep thought at those words. Ye relentlessly pressured Mu. Sir, this is our only chance. The opportunity will not come again. After a long time, Mu finally raised his head to look at Ye. How should we deal with Yang Kai? Ye replied, alone. I am definitely not his opponent. but I am capable of restraining him with the help of several pseudo-royal lords." Then he turned to look at the royal lord, who had remained quiet all this time. "Dialuo can hide in the shadows and find an opportunity to ambush him. If all goes well, we might even be able to injure him heavily." Dialuo nodded lightly. "If given the chance, I will do my best." Emo Nai added, "The human race is unaware of your existence, which makes you our trump card against Yongkai. Do not expose your existence unless you have absolute confidence in achieving success." "I understand." Emo, you questioned once more. "What about the Supreme One's soul clones? Do we need to mobilize them?" Emo Nai shook his head. "We must not mobilize them. The two giant spirit gods are watching us hungrily from the barren territory. What's more, we don't know if the human race has any other plans in place. If the Supreme One's soul clones leave the no-return pass, we will lose the ability to restrain the two giant spirit gods. The consequences will be dire if those two beings charge into the no-return pass at that time." Emo frowned deeply in thought. Although he felt that Emo Naye's words made sense, he could not bring himself to make a decision. Seeing that, Emo Naye earnestly continued to persuade Emo, "Sir, in the worst-case scenario, we will be besieged by the human race army at the no-return pass. They will chip away at our strength, just like how we attacked the no-return pass in the past. In such a situation, our defeat will be inevitable. On the contrary, we might have a chance at victory if we take the initiative to strike first." After he finished speaking, he watched Emo calmly. Emo Nai had said everything he needed to say, so it was now up to Emo to make the decision. There was nothing else he could do if Emo refused to dispatch their troops to intercept the human race army. He might have made their situation sound extremely serious, but the truth was things were not that bad. Even if the human race army laid siege on the no-return pass, the Black Ink clan was not completely helpless to fight back. They had made various preparations in the no-return pass over the years, all for the arrival of this day. It was just that, comparatively, Emo Nai preferred to take the initiative and launch an offensive for once. After a long time, Emo nodded lightly. "I hope you are right." Emo Nai was overjoyed. But just as he was about to leave to make arrangements, a territory lord rushed into the room from the outside with a panicked expression. Emo scowled at the territory lord and questioned in great displeasure, "What is it?" The territory lord hurriedly submitted a jade slip. "Sirs, the scouts on the front lines have discovered something of critical importance." Emo raised a hand and grabbed the jade slip, sending his divine sense inside. He studied the contents before his expression abruptly changed. Emo Naye's heart thundered uneasily at the sight as he instantly realized that something had gone terribly wrong. Although he did not know what was written in the jade slip, he could tell from Emo's expression that it was something detrimental to the Black Ink clan. In the next moment, Emo silently handed the jade slip over. Emo Nai took the jade slip and checked the contents. His expression quickly changed upon reading the contents, and he exclaimed in alarm, "How can that be?" The information indicated that they had lost contact with countless Black Ink clan scouts along the route that he previously plotted from the no-return pass to the secret passage. More importantly, the location of these scouts was situated along the midpoint of the route. In other words, there were human race masters who not only traveled the distance that would have normally taken a year in less than 10 days, but also eliminated some of their spies who were stationed to monitor their progress. Emo Nai immediately thought of Yongkai. After all, Yongkai was the only human at the moment who had enough proficiency in the Tao of space to travel at such mind-boggling speed. Looking back at the contents, once more though, he felt his heart sinking after reading the second part. According to the information recorded, some of the Black Ink clan scouts had seen a magnificent grand hall in the void from a distance. Furthermore, the periphery of the grand hall was heavily guarded by the human race army, a universe temple. The Black Ink clan was no stranger to these early ancient era creations, having learned about the functions of the universe temples from the black ink disciples. The universe temples were mainly used by the humans in their travels thanks to the ability to shorten the time and distance required during their journey. Almost every great territory in the 3,000 worlds had a universe temple. It was just that the Black Ink clan had destroyed many of them during the initial invasion. Nevertheless, it was evident that some had survived the war. Mo-Na-Yi never expected that an object which should have remained in the 3,000 worlds would appear on the Black Ink battlefield. Recalling the function of the universe temples, however, he immediately realized what was happening. Mo-Yu had obviously come to the same conclusion. Looking at Mo-Na-Yi, he dryly made an observation. Looks like we do not need to attack them anymore. Prepare our defenses. In just half a month, a universe temple had appeared at the midpoint of the route that Mo-Na-Yi had previously plotted. Wouldn't that mean that a universe temple would appear outside the no-return pass in another half a month? Under these circumstances, there was not enough time for the Black Ink clan to even organize an attack on the human race army. By the time they finished their preparations, the humans would already be at their doorstep. At this point, there was nothing else that Mo-Na-Yi could do about the situation. All his plans and schemes were useless in this situation. If he wanted to defend the no-return pass, then he could only confront the humans. Thus, he composed his expression and said, "I understand." Mo-Yu added, "We also need to come up with another solution for the two giant spirit gods." Agreed. There was some time until the human race army arrived. If they could deal with the two giant spirit gods before the attack, then they would be invincible. Over the next few days, the Black Ink clan significantly increased the intensity of their attempts to entice and provoke the two giant spirit gods. They even tried to send the two Black Ink giant spirit gods into the barren territory. Be that as it may, the enraged Ada did not give them any chance to take a single step forward. He stood firmly in front of the territory gate, smashing anybody who dared to step forward through the portal. Even the two Black Ink giant spirit gods were beaten so badly that they were forced to retreat. A steady flow of information was consistently being relayed to the no-return pass, and the various reports indicated that the human race army had erected 7 or 8 universe temples along their anticipated route. Some of the Black Ink clan scouts even witnessed the human race army appearing and disappearing from the universe temples from a distance. The current situation clearly explained the deployment of the human race army. With the help of the universe temples, they were rapidly approaching the no-return pass. Some 10 days later, a figure appeared just half a day away from the no-return pass. It was none other than Yang Kai, who had arrived ahead of the others. Gazing at the magnificent base in the distance, he raised his brow at the sight. The layout of the no-return pass had changed significantly compared to his previous visit. When he came here 20 years ago, the ruins of numerous destroyed great passes had been scattered around the no-return pass, and countless Black Ink nests had been distributed all over them without any regularity. At this moment, however, it was clear to see that the ruins of the great passes had been organized. The Black Ink clan had arranged the destroyed great passes left behind by the human race in a sphere outside the no-return pass to form a solid defensive barrier. Furthermore, the Black Ink clan army was gathered on the great passes. The impressive high-rank Black Ink nests had also been moved closer to the center of the no-return pass so that they could be strictly protected. It could be seen that the Black Ink clan had made various preparations in advance to deal with the humans' impending attack. Yang Kai even saw traces of large-scale artifacts on some of the destroyed great passes. The Black Ink clan were unable to perform artifact refining themselves, but they had many Black Ink disciples under their command. These artifacts must be the handiwork of those Black Ink disciples. Furthermore, 2 enormous Black Ink giant spirit gods stood guard on either side of the no-return pass, like 2 guardian gods. They towered over the majestic base with a chilling atmosphere around them. As soon as Yong-kai emerged, the two black ink giant spirit gods immediately detected his presence, raising their heads and turning to look in his direction. The black ink giant spirit god on the left even raised his hand and grabbed hold of a universe fragment nearby. In the next moment, he viciously threw the universe fragment in Yong-kai's direction with a roar. Thanks to his immense strength, the universe fragment, which contained heaven-destroying and earth-shattering power, broke through the barriers of space as it rapidly hurtled towards Yong-kai. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5870, Preparations. Marshall Peak, although Yong-kai was half a day's journey away from the no-return pass, that only referred to the time required to arrive at the no-return pass through normal means for a human-race squad-class warship. Be that as it may, such a distance was well within the attack range of Yong-kai and the black ink giant spirit gods. At any rate, the black ink giant spirit god did not expect his attack to harm Yong-kai in any way. Yong-kai was in the ninth order, so how could a trivial universe fragment injure him? In response to the menacing attack, Yong-kai simply raised his hand slightly. The universe fragment that was hurtling towards him at an astonishing speed instantly came to an abrupt halt and quietly hovered in front of him. Then he clenched his raised hand into a fist. The huge universe fragment subsequently exploded into dust. The loud and flashy confrontation instantly alerted the entire Black Ink clan in the no-return pass to the enemy's presence. One after another, countless figures quickly rushed out of the no-return pass and stared in Yong-kai's direction. Those figures radiated with powerful auras that shook the void. They were none other than the pseudo-royal lords. The pseudo-royal lords had obtained tremendous power with the help of the source fusion technique, but in exchange, they could never utilize their full strength. The price of their power was also their lack of ability to control it. For that reason, every one of them was extremely conspicuous. They generally resembled bright lights in the dark of the night when they stepped onto the battlefield, which made it impossible for them to carry out any kind of ambush. Yong-kai also saw Mo Na-yi and Mou. The two royal lords were standing in the middle of the no-return pass, surrounded by many pseudo-royal lords. When their gazes collided, Yong-kai grinned at them. On the other hand, the expressions of Mo Na-yi and Mou darkened at the sight. Now that Yong-kai was here, how far behind could the human race army be? The Black Ink clan had known that the humans were coming to attack the no-return pass, and consequently made the necessary preparations in anticipation of the enemy's imminent arrival. Nevertheless, the speed of the human race army's advance was simply too swift. After staring at each other across the distance for some time, Yong-kai raised a hand and made a slashing motion across his throat at Mo Na-yi and Mou before he casually departed. It did not take long before his figure vanished from sight. Inside the no-return pass, Mo Na-yi scowled fiercely. There was no denying that Yong-kai's actions were incredibly childish, but he could not guess the reason for him acting this way. Did he come here just to demonstrate his might? But what was the point? Could he have other intentions? Mo Na-yi instantly fell into deep thought, but he could not be blamed for being so cautious. Having been in conflict with Yong-kai for so many years, he knew that the latter had always taken advantage of the situation on every occasion. That was why, in his opinion, Yong-kai's every move was worthy of vigilance. At the same time, a universe temple had appeared in the void, approximately 3 days' journey from the no-return pass, and a steady stream of human soldiers was emerging from it. The first to arrive was the Azure Sun Army. When their members had all been assembled, they quickly formed a solid line of defense around the universe temple. That was not all, as the Void Guard, who arrived here the earliest, were also searching for universe fragments of various sizes in the vicinity to serve as temporary camps. Mi Jingluan was standing near the Universe Temple when Yang Kai hurried over and reported his discovery at the No Return Pass. Upon hearing Yang Kai's report, Mi Jingluan nodded. I expected as much. The Black Ink clan has always ignored the Great Passes because we had no means to threaten the safety of the No Return Pass, but now they are the ones under attack instead. Knowing that an attack by our army is imminent, I am sure they made various arrangements in preparation. The Great Passes that we left behind back then are perfect as barricades and barriers. After he finished speaking, he turned to look at Yang Kai and asked, Did Emo Na Yi discover you? Yang Kai replied, I wasn't hiding. Mi Jingluan chuckled. In that case, they won't dare to act rashly. Emo Na Yi is both shrewd and suspicious, so your sudden appearance outside the No Return Pass will definitely make him worry about various possibilities. I was worried that we might be attacked, but it looks like there's no need for such concerns anymore. If the Black Ink clan struck before the human army could finish assembling, the latter would definitely be troubled. The situation at this moment was the perfect example. Just the Azure Sun army alone would not be able to hold back so many Black Ink clansmen. Naturally, such an endeavor would also have been a huge risk to the Black Ink clan. The defenses at the No Return Pass would weaken considerably if such a large number of Black Ink clan masters were to leave, which would have allowed the humans to exploit. The possibility was not likely to occur now, though, so Mi Jingluan was only being vigilant towards every scenario. At this moment, he was practically certain that the Black Ink clan would not dare to act rashly again after Yang Kai's actions. This incident had given the human race army the opportunity to fully assemble their troops. An endless stream of soldiers poured out of the Universe Temple, but they all marched in an orderly manner without the slightest display of chaos. Meanwhile, Yang Kai took out the sphere that had been compressed by his space-time river. After finding a wide and open place, he raised his hand and threw the sphere. The space-time river lingered around the void. Then the sphere expanded violently and quickly transformed into a majestic Great Pass. It was the Pure Yang Pass. Pure Yang Pass was not only the last remaining Great Pass in the possession of the human race, but would also be an important weapon in conquering the No Return Pass. What's more, many of the soldiers learned for the first time that they had managed to regain one of the Great Passes from the hands of the Black Ink clan. Thus, they couldn't help cheering at the sight. The Ninth Order Masters who arrived earlier flew over and came to stand beside Yang Kai. Staring at the modified Great Pass, they couldn't help feeling emotional. It was as though they were recalling the tragic battle at the No Return Pass. A large number of troops soon swarmed into Pure Yang Pass. Following the arrangement that had been determined in advance, they swiftly took their positions. It did not take long before the many spirit arrays began lighting up consecutively. At the same time, numerous array masters prepared some spirit arrays and unique artifacts in the nearby void. There was no need to mention the specific purpose of the spirit arrays for the time being. On the other hand, the artifacts were actually a set of void yin-yang mirrors, something that Yang Kai researched and refined in the past. The artifact was a large-scale, one meant for teleporting massive objects, so it had no power for offense or defense. Each set of the void yin-yang mirrors was composed of 16 array boards, which were divided into two sides, yin and yang. Once activated, the artifact could swap the spaces within the range of the yin and yang mirrors like flipping the front and back of a mirror. The effect was both profound and mysterious. Yang Kai had mainly researched the artifact for the purpose of mining resources in Black territory. At the time, he had used the loyalty list to bring Luan Baifeng under his command. Black territory had also fallen into his hands as a result. Black territory was abundant with resources, but mining them was extremely dangerous. Nobody could delve deep into Black territory due to a massive early ancient era super array. Therefore, Yang Kai's initial idea was that the Ore slaves could mine the resources safely if he could figure out a method to transport the Ore stars located inside the array to a safer location. That was how the void yin-yang mirrors came into existence. The artifact was first created by Yang Kai, but was later modified by the artifact refining great Grandmaster Ma Fan. The performance of the artifact became much better as a consequence. Yang Kai had not only brought this artifact to the Black Ink battlefield, but also spread it throughout the various great passes, allowing them the chance to study and replicate it. Thanks to the effects of the void yin-yang mirrors, Yang Kai managed to solve the shortage of supplies among the major great passes in one fell swoop. Before the existence of the void yin-yang mirrors, the major great passes were forced to dispatch their soldiers deep into the void to gather supplies. These soldiers not only had to search for and mine materials, they also had to keep a constant lookout against ambushes and raids from the Black Ink clan. Things were different ever since they acquired the void yin-yang mirrors. They could now transport dead universe worlds and fragments that contained abundant resources to the vicinity of the great passes and mine them without worry. In this way, the efficiency of collecting resources naturally increased significantly. It was not an exaggeration to say that the lives of the soldiers at the major great passes improved considerably after Yang Kai came to the Black Ink battlefield. At this moment, the human race army was preparing many void yin-yang mirrors in their surroundings. Needless to say, they were preparing to transport many universe worlds and fragments here. It was just that the purpose of these universe worlds was not for sourcing resources. The 3 million human race masters in the Third Order Open Heaven realm and below were responsible for collecting resources, so there was no need for the main army to worry about supplies. As for the universe worlds that they transported here from deep within the void, there were other uses for them. For this purpose, the remaining Void Guard, except those who had to stay behind to monitor the universe temples along the way, had immediately sprung into action after Li Wu left for the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction with 80 Void Guard. Each of them had carried either the yin mirrors or the yang mirrors of a void yin-yang mirror set and searched various areas of the void. As time passed, the various armies gathered in this place. Aside from the central army under Mi Jingluan's direct command who occupied Pyongyang Pass, the other armies claimed a universe world or large universe fragment in the vicinity as their base camp. Each of these camps was soon overflowing with people as they worked to establish temporary outposts. The human race currently retained 12 armies just like before. Mi Jingluan had not made many adjustments to the organization. After all, each army had experienced thousands of years of fighting together. The heart of the army was united by the blood of their companions and their enemies at this point, and it might instead be detrimental to make any rash changes. Therefore, the 12 armies remained even though there were not enough Ninth Order Masters to oversee them all. Luo Ting, he was in command of the Azure Sun Army. Xiang Shan was in charge of the Blood Flame Army. Ouyang Lai commanded the Profound Nether Army. Wei Junyang led the Wolf Fang Army. Xiao Xiao was in command of the Soaring Cloud Army. Wu Qing commanded the Purple Feather Army. The newly advanced Shi Zhuang was in command of the Shocking Thunder Army, while Tang Tao led the Red Flame Army. As for the Burning Moon Army, Twin Instrument Army, Azure Dawn Army, and Jade Cicada Army, these 4 remained unchanged. These 4 armies might not be under the leadership of a Ninth Order Master, but they had the largest numbers of divine spirits. In terms of overall strength, they were not inferior to the rest of the armies. Besides, these 4 armies contained many new generation 8th Order Masters who could advance to the 9th Order at any time. Once they experienced a breakthrough, these armies would also have the protection of a 9th Order Master. A few days later, large ripples spread out endlessly from an area somewhere in the void that was warded off by a set of void yang mirrors. The vibration from these ripples was so strong that the space anchored by the yang mirrors became extremely unstable, making it difficult to distinguish between what was real and what was illusory. With the spreading of the ripples, the fluctuations of space principles became increasingly obvious. As time passed, under the watch of countless eyes, something seemed to appear in the space that was originally empty. Once all the commotion had settled, the object turned out to be an enormous universe world that had appeared out of nowhere. Several soldiers quickly stepped forward to retrieve the e-mirrors before moving to set them up in a new free space. Many array masters and artifact refiners then rushed towards the universe world and gathered on the side of it that was facing away from the no-return pass. Following a cursory survey of the geography, they immediately sprang into action and prepared a large-scale spirit array on the back of the universe world after the first universe world was transported here via the void yin-yang mirrors. More and more began appearing. Meanwhile, almost all the array masters and artifact refiners from the 12 armies were dispatched, working diligently without rest. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5871, Universe Worlds. Marshall Peak. In a short span of 1 month, hundreds of universe worlds of varying sizes appeared in the void, where the human race army had gathered thanks to the teleportation effects of the void yin-yang mirrors. At this moment, every single artifact refiner and array master in the human race army was hard at work. Even Yang Kai was toiling away alongside them. Following the consumption of substantial resources, numerous spirit arrays were constructed on the universe worlds. Another 2 months later, their preparations were complete. The dwindling resources of the human race were completely exhausted after such a grand and large-scale project. However, the Ninth Order Masters did not seem worried about the situation. There were nearly 3 million humans at or below the Third Order gathering resources throughout the Black Ink battlefield, and many universe temples equipped with space arrays connecting to various locations. Therefore, it would not take long before large amounts of materials came flowing in from all directions. It could be said that they no longer had to worry about resources as soon as they entered the Black Ink battlefield through the secret passage. During the past 3 months, the Black Ink clan at the No-Return Pass had repeatedly sent out scouts to investigate the situation. As they did not dare to dispatch any masters for the task, the information that the weak Black Ink clansmen could obtain was very limited. All the Black Ink clan knew was that the human race army had assembled at a spot some 3 days' journey from the No-Return Pass, and that they could attack at any moment. They could not gain any further information regarding the situation. On this day, all preparations were completed. The human race army finally embarked on their quest to retake the No-Return Pass. This crusade was the first of its kind in the thousands of years since the Black Ink clan first invaded the 3,000 worlds, the first time the human race had truly taken the initiative in the war. The roles of the hunter and the prey were reversed at this moment. It was also the first battle since the human race army launched their offensive. Hence, every single soldier in the human race army displayed high morale and intense fighting spirit. The bustling void became empty in a flash. Aside from the squads who had to stay behind and guard the universe temples and the human race masters with special duties, the rest of the army had divided into 2 groups and advanced towards the No-Return Pass. 1 day later, the movements of the human race army were relayed to the No-Return Pass by their lookouts. Mo Na Yi finally felt his anxiety receding slightly at the knowledge. The human race army had come to attack, but there had been no movement from them for the past 3 months. The feeling of having a knife held against his neck was extremely uncomfortable. He did not know what sort of preparations and arrangements the enemy was making during this period, but he could be certain about one thing: he could not afford to underestimate them. Now that the blade had been swung, who was stronger and who was weaker would be determined in combat. There was no doubt that the human race army was the strongest it had ever been, But the Black Ink clan was not inferior. Mo-na-Yi also believed that the Black Ink clan had a slight advantage as the defending party. Under these circumstances, the human race army would most likely be sent back in defeat if they came attacking directly from the front. It was truly unfortunate that the commander of the opposing party was Mi Jingluan, who would never make such a stupid decision. After receiving the report from the scouts on the front lines, Mo-na-Yi glanced at the information and frowned deeply. It was just as he had expected. The human race army had made various deployments and arrangements in advance. The reports indicated that the human race army was not aiming for a frontal attack. On the contrary, they had divided their forces into two groups and taken a considerable detour by traveling in a wide arc. Judging by their formation, they seemed to be approaching the no-return pass from both the right and left sides in a pincer attack. The deployment of the human race army was both reasonable yet also unexpected. Nevertheless, their actions confused Mo-na-Yi. He knew that Mi Jingluan was not naive enough to believe the humans could conquer the no-return pass with such a simple pincer attack, but he could not figure out the purpose behind their deployment either. Unable to determine their aim, Mo-na-Yi could only adopt countermeasures on the fly according to how the situation evolved. At his command, most of the Black Ink clan army in the no-return pass mobilized various defensive measures ahead of the human race army's advance. The humans sailed forward aggressively. It was always necessary to take the initiative in a war. After all, the only deciding factor between victory and defeat was the limit of casualties that could be sustained by the respective parties. At this moment, Yang Kai was back at the base camp of the human army on one of the largest universe worlds in the vicinity of the Universe Temple. He was lying down in a deserted mountain valley with his arms behind his head and one leg crossed over his knee, staring into the void blankly. He looked like he was enjoying a rare moment of peace amidst the chaotic situation. He had been fighting the Black Ink clan for countless years. During this period, he had always been cultivating hard or rushing somewhere to accomplish a mission. There had never been a time when he could relax, so he couldn't help feeling a little strange at the abrupt change. Nevertheless, the reason he did not join the assault was that he had his own mission to carry out. Dozens of Void Guard and hundreds of Eighth Order Masters were also tasked with carrying out similar missions. At this moment, they were scattered around the numerous universe worlds that had been prepared beforehand. All of a sudden, Yang Kai's unfocused gaze sharpened without warning, and a light flashed through his eyes at the same time. "It's about time," he muttered to himself, climbing to his feet as he stretched lazily. Peaceful and happy times were often short-lived in this age of chaos. After taking the time to forget about his troubles and enjoying a carefree rest for a day, Yang Kai felt refreshed and full of energy. It was time to take action. With a shout, he circulated his strength and channeled his world force into the spirit array beneath his feet. The intricate patterns of the spirit array immediately lit up and rapidly spread outward like an uncontrolled wildfire. Looking down from the void, it could be seen that the spirit array was extremely large. In fact, the spirit array practically covered 10% the entire universe world surface. When the spirit array was activated, an enormous light barrier emerged to surround the universe world. Propelled by the power of the light barrier under Yang Kai's control, the gigantic universe world, which had been peacefully hovering in the void, slowly began to move, as though it was being pushed by a large, invisible hand. At first, this movement was slight. However, its momentum became greater and greater with the passage of time. After passing through the various spirit arrays that were constructed in the void beforehand, the speed of the universe worlds increased sharply. Furthermore, the direction in which the enormous universe world was advancing was none other than the direction where the no-return pass was located. Behind this enormous universe world, countless other universe worlds and fragments of varying sizes were moving in the same direction. It was a magnificent sight to behold. Yang Kai stood on top of the universe world, looking bold and heroic, throwing his head back with laughter. He sent a divine sense transmission in all directions. Proud soldiers of the human race, let us charge into battle. Many Eighth Order masters and Void Guards responded gallantly from the backs of those universe worlds. The strategy to attack the Black Ink Clan by making use of the impact caused by the collision of universe worlds was pioneered by the Great Evolution Army during the previous war. While the Northern and Southern Great Evolution Armies blockaded the Great Evolution Pass under Mi Jingluen's command, Xiang Shan led the Eastern and Western armies to assault the royal city. At that time, Xiang Shan had repeatedly unleashed this tactic, draining the strength of the Black Ink Clan to a huge extent. This strategy was generally very difficult to employ. After all, it was very strenuous to gather the universe worlds that were scattered throughout the void. Simply transporting appropriate universe worlds with manpower alone was not only extremely time-consuming, but also incredibly labor-intensive, so the effort was considered impractical. However, the strategy became much more viable with Yang Kai's void yin-yang mirrors. The human race army gained the ability to gather universe worlds that were originally scattered throughout the void thanks to the support of the void yin-yang mirrors. Then, they prepared various spirit arrays to support and reinforce their weapons. The Great Evolution Army had employed this tactic to cause not only tremendous damage to the Black Ink Clan, but to also threaten the royal city in the Great Evolution Theater. At the same time, the losses faced by the Great Evolution Army were reduced significantly. The scouts dispatched by the No Return Pass had naturally discovered traces of the human race army gathering universe worlds. Needless to say, even low-rank Black Ink clansmen couldn't miss hundreds of universe worlds being brought over by the humans. The gathering of so many universe worlds was by no means a small-scale action after all. When Mo Na-yi received the information from his scouts, he was amazed that the humans had such mysterious means. He did not think too much about this matter, though, as he simply assumed that the human race masters were planning to mine resources from those universe worlds. How could he have known that they were planning to use these universe worlds to attack the No Return Pass? If there were any survivors from the Black Ink Clan army of Great Evolution Theater, they would have understood the human race army's intentions in a heartbeat. It was a pity that the entire Black Ink Clan army from the Black Ink battlefield back then had been exterminated by the humans during the First Crusade. Furthermore, the Black Ink disciples under the current Black Ink Clan's control had not participated in the previous war on the Black Ink battlefield. There had also been no need for the human race army to employ this tactic over the past few thousands of years. The assault on the No Return Pass was the first opportunity to make use of this strategy. Mi Jingluen did not expect this battle to determine victory and defeat. There were countless masters in the No Return Pass, not to mention 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods. They were by no means easy prey to defeat. Nevertheless, it was the first battle since the human race army set off to conquer the No Return Pass, so it was only natural to start things off on the right foot. Therefore, they had not hesitated to bring out the universe world impact strategy that was used to besiege Great Evolution Royal City in the past. The humans even exhausted their remaining resources transporting and modifying several hundred universe worlds for this initial battle. The reason why the human race army had to divide into 2 groups and sail in a wide arc was to leave a clear path for the universe worlds that were hurtling towards the No Return Pass. Otherwise, these universe worlds would have collided with their troops that were blocking the way. It would be extremely embarrassing if they struck their own forces before they even managed to attack their enemy. Besides, the human race army would also distract the Black Ink Clan's attention by marching ahead. All the forces of the Black Ink Clan in the No Return Pass were currently focused on the human race army advancing from the left and right sides. How could they ever have imagined that hundreds of universe worlds would come flying at them from their center. Many black ink clansmen were gathered in the grand hall of the No-Return Pass, and the atmosphere was gloomy. The attack of the human race army had long been expected. In fact, Mo-Na-Yi had already anticipated today's situation all the way back when he recalled all the pseudo-royal lords more than 20 years ago. At the time, the Black Ink clan could have chosen to retreat from the No-Return Pass, but where would they go after leaving this place? Were they supposed to aimlessly wander around the Black Ink battlefield? Even if they did that, they would be found by the human race army one day. Rather than fighting in the void of the Black Ink battlefield, it was better to stay and defend the already fortified No-Return Pass. Furthermore, the mission of the Black Ink clan had always been to erode the 3,000 worlds and destroy the human race so that Mo would rule the universe. The Black Ink clan was not born to fight for their survival, but for their supreme, one's ultimate hegemony. Report after report came from the front. Following the steady approach of the human race army from both sides, the atmosphere in the Grand Hall became increasingly depressed. It was not until the human army was only half a day's journey away from the No-Return Pass that Mo-Na-Yi slowly got to his feet. Glancing around at the many pseudo-royal lords gathered below him, he solemnly declared, "Everyone, assume your duties and take your positions. Since the humans dare to come attacking, then we will slaughter them until not a single one of them is left alive." The pseudo-royal lords accepted the order and hurriedly flew away. Then Mo-Na-Yi looked at Mo-Yu again. "Sir, when the time comes, we will need you to restrain one of the Ninth Order Masters. However, the situation on the battlefield changes rapidly. Please adapt to the circumstances as you see fit." Mo-Yu nodded. "I know, but I probably won't even need to worry about anything. The Ninth Order Masters will come to me themselves." Mo-Na-Yi agreed. There were more Ninth Order Masters than Royal Lords at the moment, so they would surely attempt to restrain both himself and Mo-Yu. There was really no need for Mo-Yu to bother taking the initiative. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5872, One-Way Journey. Marshall Peak, Mo-Na-Yi glanced at Diyaluo. "I will engage with Yong-Kai in battle. Meanwhile, look for an opportunity to make your move. Do not expose yourself unless you find a suitable opening." "I understand." Diyaluo nodded heavily. As the only royal lord born within the Black Ink clan over the past 20 years, he was the trump card that Mo-Na-Yi had prepared against Yong-Kai. So his existence could not be exposed. The moment he appeared, he had to strike a deadly blow against Yong-Kai. Among all the Ninth Order Masters, Yong-Kai posed the greatest threat to the Black Ink clan. No matter the strength of the other Ninth Order Masters, they could be contained by several pseudo-royal lords working together. Only Yong-Kai, whose Tao Strength River was both profound and mysterious, was extremely difficult to handle. The pseudo-royal lords alone were not enough to restrain him. It was only possible to stop him if a royal lord personally took action. Moreover, it would also depend on whether there was an opportunity to obstruct Yong-Kai, as the latter was proficient in the Tao of Space, which made him as slippery as an eel. Without the right opportunity, nobody could even hope to pin him down. Although the Black Ink clan had 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods, they could not be dispatched into battle casually, as the true giant spirit gods were eyeing the No-Return Pass eagerly. If the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods left their post in the No-Return Pass, the Black Ink clan would have no means to guarantee the safety of their rear. It could be said that the existence of the 2 giant spirit gods was keeping the Black Ink clan's strongest combat force in check. Naturally, the same could be said in reverse. In this situation, neither side had an advantage over the other. After making various arrangements, Mo-Na-Yi darted out of the Grand Hall and stared into the depths of the void. With his cultivation and eyesight, he could naturally see the imposing human race army around him. The huge and boundless fleet coming from both sides resembled a swarm of locusts that covered his entire field of vision. Just looking at the scene gave off an extremely strong sense of oppression. Not to mention, there was a conspicuous and majestic great pass on the left side of the human race army that stood out like a sore thumb. The corner of his face twitched involuntarily at the sight of the great pass, as it was none other than pure Yang Pass that Yang Kai took from the no-return pass some 20 years ago. Despite knowing that the human race army would use pure Yang Pass against the Black Ink clan if they let Yang Kai take it, the Black Ink clan was forced to make certain concessions due to the pressure from various threats caused by Yang Kai at the time. That was because the safety of the pseudo-royal lords wandering outside could not be guaranteed if Yang Kai was allowed to act as he pleased. The Great Pass had been repaired and modified by the human race. At this moment, the entire Great Pass seemed to radiate with a sense of grandeur. It was easy to see that the various artifacts mounted on the walls of the Great Pass were not mere decorations. Any Black Ink clansman who dared to approach the Great Pass would instantly be greeted with a storm of attacks. With pure Yang Pass, the safety of Mi Jing Luan, who served as the supreme commander of the human race army, would be guaranteed. Mo Na Yi couldn't help feeling a twinge of regret at the sight. He had been searching for an opportunity to eliminate Mi Jing Luan the entire time, but the latter had always remained in the supreme headquarters during the previous wars. Because Mi Jing Luan rarely entered the battlefield, the Black Ink clan had been unable to touch a single hair on his head up until now. Besides, it had been obvious that Yang Kai was preparing the Great Pass for Mi Jing Luan when he came to the no-return pass and demanded pure Yang Pass. Mo Na sneered coldly to himself. Yang Kai sure takes good care of Supreme Commander Mi. Then various other thoughts came to mind unbidden. I wonder if the human race army will fall into chaos if Mi Jing Luan is killed before they launch their attack on the no-return pass. Where is Yang Kai? He swept his gaze over the human race army coming from both sides, but did not spot his nemesis anywhere. The realization caused Mo Na Yi to become vigilant. Not only was Yang Kai proficient in the Tao of Space, but he also seemed to have mastered a mysterious secret technique that almost perfectly concealed himself. If he wanted to stay hidden and ambush the pseudo-royal lords during the battle, none of the pseudo-royal lords would survive the encounter. Could he be hiding in the vicinity? That's certainly a possibility. Just as Mo Na Yi was starting to feel suspicious, the human race army that had been approaching the no-return pass slowly from both flanks suddenly accelerated. The news was instantly relayed to the entire no-return pass. The battle was about to begin, and the atmosphere in the no-return pass was chilling. The entire Black Ink clan had mentally prepared themselves to fight the humans to the death. Likewise, the pseudo-royal lords were blazing with intense fighting spirit. They displayed their auras proudly, not bothering to conceal their presence in the slightest. For hours passed, and the humans were now closing in on the no-return pass, be it the human race army or the Black Ink clan army. The stronger soldiers now could already see the various deployments of the opposing party clearly. At this moment, none of the Black Ink clansmen, including the royal lords, noticed anything abnormal. However, the two Black Ink giant spirit gods standing guard on both sides of the no-return pass reacted, as though they had discovered something. One of the Black Ink giant spirit gods grabbed a universe fragment from nearby and hurled it into the distance, just like how he had attacked Yang Kai several months ago. The rather large universe fragment shot through the void at a high speed, but under the astonished gaze of the Black Ink clan, it did not hurtle towards the human race army, but instead soared off into the empty middle void. Then, the two giant spirit gods began to hurl universe fragment after universe fragment into the void, without pause. A great surge of anxiety immediately washed over Mo Na Yi at the sight. According to the original plans, the Black Ink giant spirit gods were supposed to use this tactic against the human race army once the war began. They were responsible for guarding the no-return pass, so they could not move around easily. Nevertheless, they could rely on throwing these universe fragments to create a great degree of disturbance to the human race army. If they were lucky, they might even injure their enemies. Even the Eighth Order Masters would not be able to withstand such an attack from these Black Ink giant spirit gods. However, the two Black Ink giant spirit gods had unexpectedly begun to take action before the war started, or the Black Ink clan army in the No-Return Pass engaged the enemy. The sudden turn of events was very different from the original plans, as the two Black Ink giant spirit gods were both soul clones of the Supreme One. Mo-Na-Yi had no right to criticize them for anything. Be that as it may, he gradually began to notice the abnormality after observing their actions. He looked in the direction where the universe fragments were being thrown, and what entered his field of vision were countless shadows of indescribable size. When he finally caught a clear glimpse of the shadows, his body began to shake involuntarily. At the same time, he felt as though his head was about to explode at the sight. Those shadows were actually enormous universe worlds. He finally realized something about the piece of information that he had neglected before. The reason the human race army had gathered so many universe worlds was not to mine for resources. They were using them as weapons to attack the No-Return Pass. With the abilities of the human race, it was not surprising for them to achieve such a feat. It was just that Mo-Na-Yi never expected them to attack in such an outrageous manner. The Black Ink clan had only thought of relying on the Black Ink giant spirit god strength to attack the human race army by throwing universe fragments at them, but the humans found a way to do something similar. They had brought the universe worlds to the war. Moreover, there were hundreds of them. It was simply outrageous. In Mo-Na-Yi's field of vision, the universe world that came first was particularly massive. At the same time, Yang Kai's figure finally appeared on the periphery of a large universe world. He was flying through the void, leading hundreds of unstoppable universe worlds in a torrent behind him. Facing the first universe fragment that the Black Ink giant spirit god hurled at him, Yang Kai simply raised his hand slightly and clenched his fist lightly. In response, the universe fragment instantly exploded into dust. Pointless tricks 10 million kilometers away. Yang Kai looked in the direction of the No-Return Pass and grinned at Mo-Na-Yi. Immediately after that, he summoned the space-time river. The river was like a whip, dancing wildly in the void, smashing all the universe fragments hurtling towards him. Useless, all useless. His voice resounded through the void. Mo-Na-Yi, there is an old saying among the human race that goes, "It's rude not to reciprocate a kind gesture." The Black Ink clan delivered pure Yang Pass and a considerable amount of resources to me 20 years ago, so I brought you a generous gift today in return. Please accept my sincerity. Behind the universe fragments, hundreds of Eighth Order Masters shouted in unison, "Please accept our sincerity." Their unrestrained and defiant expressions nearly gave Mo-Na-Yi a heart attack from rage. Likewise, the expressions of the Black Ink clansmen in the No-Return Pass turned increasingly solemn. They would not have worried if they were simply attacked with hundreds of universe worlds. All from the Black Ink clan masters were currently assembled in the No-Return Pass. So, with their combined strength, mere hundreds of universe worlds could easily be destroyed before they even got close. However, the human race army was currently surging towards their left and right flanks. If the Black Ink clan diverted their strength to intercept these universe worlds, the human army would surely take advantage of their distraction. On the other hand, the impact on the No-Return Pass would be too much if they simply ignored the universe worlds. The Black Ink clan masters might not be too affected, but those with lower cultivation would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Any possible casualties were merely their secondary concern, however, as their primary worry was that the impact of such an attack might threaten the safety of the black ink nests. After all, black ink nests were all extremely fragile. At this moment, the intention of the humans was extremely clear. The two groups pressing them from either side abruptly increased their speed so that they arrived at the same time as the universe worlds. They were planning to completely overwhelm the Black Ink Clan from all sides. It was too late to reposition the troops at this point, so all Mo Na Yi could do was make some subtle adjustments here and there. He relayed order after order to the Black Ink Clan army, and to their credit, the Black Ink Clan army flawlessly executed his commands. The short wait that followed felt like endless torture. As the hundreds of universe worlds drew nearer, their huge shadows seemed to block out the entire sky, causing every single Black Ink clansman to feel a heavy and oppressive pressure. Many Black Ink clan masters also held their breaths and braced themselves against the coming impact. An hour later, the hundreds of universe worlds that were launched from the depths of the void finally entered the attacking range of the Black Ink Clan. Mo Na Yi swiftly unleashed a secret technique. His actions were immediately followed by an overwhelming wave of attacks that burst out from the no-return pass and blasted towards the distance. Good. Yang Kai pushed his space-time river in front of the lead universe world, coiling it into a giant swirling shield that absorbed and blocked the various secret techniques blasting towards it, causing the water to churn violently. Yang Kai could only endure this barrage for 10 breaths before he began to buckle under the pressure. His strength was impressive and his attainments in the Grand Daos were extremely profound. Nevertheless, it was an extravagant hope to withstand the combined attacks of so many masters from the Black Ink Clan. If he stubbornly insisted on this course of action, the very foundation of his Grand Daos would be affected once the space-time river was damaged. After uttering such haughty words, Yang Kai decisively dodged to the side. Without his interference, the enormous universe world was blasted apart by the rain of secret techniques that came flying over in the next moment. The universe world shattered to pieces and scattered about at the same time. The human army approaching the no-return pass unleashed a volley of attacks. The void immediately lit up in various colors of all intensities. Then, these lights streaked across space like shooting stars and rained down upon the no-return pass. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5873, Double the Impact. Marshall Peak, countless Black Ink Clan miscellaneous troops were stationed along the outermost edges of the no-return pass, and their numbers were overwhelming in every sense of the word. This formation was the most commonly used tactic by the Black Ink Clan. Throughout the years of constant conflict with the human race, the Black Ink Clan often relied upon the sacrifice of their cannon fodder to shave away at the strength of the humans at the outset of battle. After all, they could spawn as many of these miscellaneous troops as they wanted as long as they had Black Ink nests and resources. That was why the Black Ink Clan remained unaffected by the deaths of these troops, no matter how many of them died. Besides, the existence of the cannon fodder could do more than just wear down the strength of the human race army. Following the deaths of the countless lower soldiers, the Black Ink strength in their bodies would permeate their surroundings and gather together to form dense Black Ink clouds. It was equivalent to artificially creating a battlefield that was advantageous to the Black Ink Clan. Fighting under such circumstances was undoubtedly disadvantageous for the human race army, but the Black Ink Clan took to such conditions like how fish took to the water. In the past, the humans used to be greatly hindered by this tactic and suffered heavy casualties as a result. Fortunately, they had the purifying Black Ink pills and purifying light nowadays. The existence of the purifying Black Ink pills and purifying light drastically reduced the deterrent effect of these tactics on them, but they could not ignore the detrimental effects completely. There were bound to be some remaining effects from fighting the Black Ink clan under these conditions for extended periods. After the first volley of fire from the human race army, countless Black Ink clan troops were blasted into a cloud of blood mist, and the entire periphery of the no-return pass, facing the Black Ink battlefield, was gradually covered in Black Ink strength. When the human race masters launched their offensive, the Black Ink clan masters in the no-return pass were busy intercepting the universe worlds that came hurtling down their center. One after another, the universe worlds were blown apart into fragments of varying sizes that still hurtled towards the no-return pass. The scene was a huge mess. Fortunately, the human race army had prepared many universe worlds. Moreover, they did not pack them too closely together. Despite suffering some losses, the damages did not affect the overall situation. Nevertheless, more than 50 of the universe worlds were destroyed in the blink of an eye. At this rate, the universe worlds would all be completely destroyed before they could even cause any damage to the no-return pass. But how could the humans simply allow the Black Ink clan to do so? The Black Ink clan's cannon fodder stationed around the outermost edges of the no-return pass suffered heavy casualties, and enormous gaps soon appeared in the defense line that they formed. Although a steady stream of these miscellaneous troops rushed forward fearlessly to replenish their lines and fill the gaps, the reinforcements could no longer keep up with the speed of the losses. The human army steadily approached from opposite sides. In addition, the continuous barrage of secret techniques and artifacts that blasted out of the huge fleet and shot in the direction of the no-return pass forced the Black Ink clan to rely on the Black Ink giant spirit gods to intercept the attacks. Looking down from outside the battlefield, the scene of the war was extremely magnificent. Both the Black Ink clan and the human race had made extensive preparations for the battle. Numerous attacks containing violent and destructive power rose from their respective camps, only to fall towards the opposing one. The battle was in full swing. Many masters from the Black Ink clan were being increasingly restrained by the forces of the human race army that were closing in, so they could only watch as the hundreds of universe worlds and fragments approached the no-return pass. The sight left them feeling powerless and anxious. At this moment, Yi was inside the no-return pass. He was simultaneously summoning various secret techniques to intercept the attacks from the human race army and monitoring the movement of his surroundings with his divine sense. Despite his calm demeanor on the surface, he was actually racked with anxiety for one simple reason. Yang Kai was gone. When the universe worlds came flying towards the no-return pass, Yang Kai had been standing atop the biggest one, leading the way. Be that as it may, he had vanished without a trace after the universe world was smashed to pieces by the combined forces of the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai's sudden disappearance sent a chill down Naye's spine. Unknown dangers were the most terrifying, especially when a master like Yang Kai was involved. It would not be a good thing for the Black Ink clan if Yang Kai concealed his figure and aura, then took advantage of the chaos to infiltrate the no-return pass. After a quick look around, Yi was relieved to see that many of the pseudo-royal lords were still following his previous instructions and arrangements. The pseudo-royal lords were in 3 Fortune's battle formations, which allowed them to guard each other's backs. In this way, they could protect themselves to a certain degree if Yang Kai suddenly appeared and launched a sneak attack on them. As for the territory lords below the pseudo-royal lords, there was no helping them. They could only blame their poor luck if they were targeted by Yang Kai. With Yang Kai's current status and cultivation, while he might not even care enough to specifically target these territory lords, there was still a possibility that he would eliminate them in passing. The ongoing battle remained unchanged, although the Black Ink clan suffered heavy casualties. Their losses mainly came from the ranks of their cannon fodder, while the masters were mostly unharmed. On the other hand, the human race also suffered some degree of loss. Some of the warships out front had been damaged, and a few were completely destroyed. Of course, There were casualties among the soldiers too. Be that as it may, Mo Na Yi was not optimistic about the situation. Anybody with a discerning eye could see that humans had carefully planned and prepared their attack today. The Black Ink clan was bound to pay an expensive price in this battle. The human race army rapidly closed in on the no-return pass from both sides, and the hundreds of universe worlds flying forward approached the no-return pass at a high speed. These universe worlds were constantly being blown up as they closed in. It was fortunate that the Eighth Order masters controlling these universe worlds quickly noticed the danger and escaped beforehand. If not, they could not have defended themselves from the dense storm of attacks raining down on them. Ultimately, though, the Black Ink clan found themselves lacking the necessary numbers to handle the situation. Even though the Black Ink clan desperately tried to defend themselves, they simply lacked the manpower to face both the human race army and the universe world attack at the same time. An hour into the confrontation, one of the universe worlds finally broke through layers of heavy blockades and slammed into the Black Ink clan's outermost line of defense. At the moment of collision, the spirit arrays arranged on the universe world suddenly blazed with light and illuminated the entire sky like a great sun. The spectacle was immediately followed by the grand explosion of the universe world, which detonated with a terrifying force. It could be seen that the power of the spirit arrays was impressive indeed. It only took a moment for the Black Ink clan soldiers in the vicinity to be wiped out completely. Even a few of the territory lords staggered backwards from the force of the explosion. Meanwhile, the auras of many feudal lords vanished from existence. The expressions of many Black Ink clansmen changed at that sight as they gained a new understanding of their predicament. These universe worlds hurtling towards the no-return pass did not just contain enormous momentum, but were also covered in various dangerous spirit arrays. That was what made these universe worlds even more terrifying. Unfortunately, their realization came too late. After one universe world broke through the Black Ink clan's defense perimeter, a second and a third quickly followed. Although the majority of the universe worlds were destroyed en route, the human race army was extremely well prepared. In fact, they even went so far as to exhaust all their remaining resources just to arrange the spirit arrays on so many universe worlds. The places along the line of defense that were struck by the universe worlds were in complete disarray. There were countless casualties, and several spots now had wide gaps in them. Hence, the Black Ink clan masters nearby were rushing to restore the defense perimeter to hold the line. Nevertheless, this was just the beginning. At this point, the true power of the human race army had yet to be displayed. The previous exchange had merely been a long-distance confrontation, and the attack relying upon the collision of the universe worlds was simply borrowed from external forces. The power of the humans itself remained hidden from sight. Mo Na Yi's heart sank. Before the war began, he had already mentally prepared himself for the fact that the Black Ink clan would suffer considerable losses. However, it would now seem that they were going to take far more casualties than he originally expected. All of a sudden, he turned his head to look in a certain direction. 3 pseudo-royal lords were standing along the line of defense in that direction. They had formed the 3 Fortunes formation and were working together to attack one of the incoming universe worlds. This universe world had almost made it to the defense line at this point. Just as the universe world was about to collide with the outermost perimeter, it was abruptly stopped and exploded thanks to the joint attack of the 3 pseudo-royal lords. The huge impact unleashed a shockwave that caused ripples to spread out across the void in all directions, and the figures of the 3 pseudo-royal lords involuntarily staggered from the resulting aftermath. "Watch out!" Mo Na Yi's furious roar suddenly rang out in the ears of the 3 pseudo-royal lords. Their reaction was undeniably swift. Almost at the same time that Mo Na Yi shouted his warning, They drew upon their respective power and blasted their strongest attack in a certain direction. In that direction, a figure suddenly emerged from the space that was originally empty. It was none other than Yang Kai, who had gone missing previously. Nobody knew how Yang Kai had infiltrated the defenses of the Black Ink clan, or when he had appeared at that position. After his three selves united, he successfully mastered Thunder Shadow's innate divine ability, which gave him an unmatched advantage in terms of concealment. Only a royal lord could perceive his movements and whereabouts within a limited range. If the pseudo-royal lords had investigated their surroundings wholeheartedly, they might have had a chance to notice his approach. Unfortunately, it was impossible for the pseudo-royal lords to see through the traces of Yang Kai's movements under such chaotic conditions. The chaos had created the perfect conditions for Yang Kai to hide in. Therefore, it was not until he made his move that the three pseudo-royal lords noticed his presence. Mo Na Ye's warning had sounded at roughly the same time. When the sound of the surging river entered the depth of their hearts, the three pseudo-royal lords involuntarily gulped nervously as a wave of fear washed over them. Yang Kai's achievements in E5 territory had long since spread throughout the No-Return Pass. At this point, not a single Black Ink clansman remained ignorant about that tragedy. A total of 8 pseudo-royal lords had died at Yang Kai's hands, all thanks to the mysterious Dao strength river he possessed. As the saying went, a lesson from the past was a guide for the future. The deep-seated fear of Yang Kai experienced by these 3 pseudo-royal lords could be said to come from the bottom of their hearts. Accompanied by the sound of roaring water that resounded throughout the void, the Dao strength river appeared and swept towards the 3 pseudo-royal lords like a flood. It was natural to try to avoid such attacks as soon as possible under normal circumstances. After all, they would never recover if they were caught in the currents of the Dao strength river. Unexpectedly, though, the 3 pseudo-royal lords did not dodge the attack immediately. On the contrary, their fighting spirits seemed to awaken at this juncture of life or death. The aura that was closely connected between them became increasingly solid. As a result, as they swiftly blasted out a continuous barrage of attacks at the Dao Strength River sweeping towards them. The Dao Strength River, which was relatively calm in the beginning, abruptly churned violently. As the bombardment from the pseudo-royal lords intensified, the waves of the Dao Strength River swelled to greater heights. Yang Kai, who was holding the Dao Strength River in his hand, involuntarily gave a muffled grunt. At the same time, the strength of his offensive weakened considerably as a result. Seeing that, the 3 pseudo-royal lords were overjoyed, as they also secretly felt a sense of admiration and respect for Mo Na Yi. Sir Mo Na Yi is a hero indeed. His instructions were indeed an effective method to counter Yang Kai's Dao Strength River. The truth was that Mo Na Yi had taught the pseudo-royal lords various methods and strategies to counter Yang Kai's Dao Strength River after the battle in E5 territory. Not only did he confront Yang Kai inside the universe furnace, but he was also swept into the space-time river by Yang Kai once and broke free from its restraints thanks to various circumstances. That was why he had a certain degree of understanding regarding the Dao Strength River. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5874, Fake and Real. Marshall Peak, the battle at E5 territory had resulted in great losses for the Black Ink clan. The deaths of 8 pseudo-royal lords had left MOU and Mo Na Yi heartbroken. They no longer had the means to increase the number of pseudo-royal lords anymore, so there would be 1 less pseudo-royal lord with every death. After that incident, Mo Na Yi had seriously considered various methods to overcome Yang Kai's Dao Strength River. He knew that the mysterious river was condensed from Yang Kai's Dao strengths, but since it was a physical manifestation of Dao strengths, it could theoretically be damaged. Combined with his experience from fighting Yang Kai inside the universe furnace, he eventually came to a conclusion. Blindly dodging and retreating from an attack launched by Yang Kai's Tao Strength River would only lead to a delayed death. Only by facing the attack head-on and striking at it with a mighty force could one defend themselves against him. Naturally, this was only a hypothesis, and the actual results of confronting Yang Kai with such methods could not be confirmed. When Yang Kai abruptly appeared and launched a sneak attack on the three pseudo-royal lords, Mo Na Yi had swiftly rushed over to assist. At the same time, he also widened his eyes and observed the situation intently to verify whether his theory was correct. As soon as he saw the three pseudo-royal lords defending themselves against the Tao Strength River with their combined strength, his heavy mood lightened considerably. Sure enough, his suggestion was effective. Yang Kai was not invincible after all. Having advanced to the Ninth Order Open Heaven realm, Yang Kai was very strong. Nevertheless, the most threatening ability in his arsenal was currently his Tao Strength River. The main reason the pseudo-royal lords in E5 territory had suffered such huge losses was that they had never encountered such a strange method before. With no means to defend themselves, they were caught off guard and suffered horribly. As long as the Black Ink clan had the means to suppress the Tao Strength River, then Yang Kai's threat to the Black Ink clan would be reduced greatly. Needless to say, achieving such a feat would not be easy. Having three pseudo-royal lords working together to establish a battle formation was the minimum requirement. In the center of the battlefield, Yang Kai made an astonished exclamation as he observed three pseudo-royal lords before him. Although he was surprised by this development, he had to admit that their response was certainly the correct method to resist him. The approach of taking the offensive and advancing relentlessly had certainly suppressed his attack. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Mo Na Yi rushing towards him. The other pseudo-royal lords were also coming over to provide support. At this rate, it would not take long before he was surrounded, but even though the situation was very dangerous, Yang Kai showed no signs of panic. Wielding the Tao Strength River like a whip, he constantly brandished it at the three pseudo-royal lords. On his other hand, he suddenly raised his hand above his head, and space principles condensed into a brilliant ball of light above his palm. Nobody knew what Yang Kai was planning to do, but looking at Yang Kai's actions gave Mo Na Yi an ominous feeling, and he immediately shouted, "Kill him!" In the next instant, a series of powerful attacks blasted out from Mo Na Yi, and the pseudo-royal lords rushing over to help. These attacks landed unerringly in Yang Kai's direction. The space around Yang Kai suddenly became distorted, and under the impetus of the rampaging space principles, those attacks barged into the distorted space like uninvited guests. Then, an astonishing phenomenon occurred. The attacks that had originally been traveling at an extremely high speed suddenly became as slow as a crawling turtle after entering the distortion. They were still approaching Yang Kai, but at a speed that was hard to even see. At such a slow speed, even a 3-year-old child standing there could easily avoid these attacks. Fortunately, Mo Na Yi was very discerning. He could tell at a glance that the secret techniques thrown at Yang Kai had not become slower. On the contrary, it was the space that had become extremely distorted, near distant horizon. This space secret technique might not contain any defensive abilities on its own, but it had great defensive effects. The void surrounding Yang Kai's figure was infinitely stretched out thanks to the manipulation of space principles. Even though the secret techniques continued to travel at a terrifying speed, they seemed almost frozen on the spot under the effects of the infinitely stretched out space. At the same time, Yang Kai abruptly brought down his hand that was held above his head earlier. Nothing seemed to occur, but be that as it may, the expressions of the three pseudo-royal lords facing Yang Kai changed drastically in the wake of the seemingly useless blow. A turbulent wave of fear surged through their hearts at that moment because their intricately linked auras, which had seemed indestructible previously, suddenly fell apart as though sliced by a sharp blade when Yong Kai's hand came swinging down. The Three Fortunes formation had been broken. The space-time river swept towards them in the next moment, and unfortunately for them, they no longer had the means to defend themselves against the attack. Without the support of the battle formation, the pseudo-royal lords were no match for Yong Kai with their strength alone. One of the pseudo-royal lords was dragged into the depths of the river and disappeared quickly with a small splash. On the other hand, the second pseudo-royal lord reacted swiftly under the circumstances. As soon as he was caught in the currents of the river, he began to struggle desperately. Unfortunately for him, it was as though he was stuck in a quagmire, and the more he struggled, the faster he sank into the raging waters. The third pseudo-royal lord turned out to be the smartest. As soon as the Three Fortunes formation was destroyed, he immediately turned tail and fled. Even Yong Kai could not catch the fleeing pseudo-royal lord in time despite his quick reflexes. At this moment, the barrage of attacks from earlier finally overcame the limits of his near-distant horizon secret technique and slammed into Yong Kai's body. A dazzling golden dragon phantom emerged from nowhere and coiled around Yong Kai's body. When the powerful attacks exploded, the phantom dragon dissipated, and Yong Kai's body shook violently from the impact. A trickle of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. As a result, if it were any other Ninth Order master who bore the brunt of these attacks instead, they would inevitably suffer heavy injuries as a result. However, Yong Kai was a divine dragon. By relying on the physique of a divine dragon to protect him, he only suffered minor injuries from these attacks. That was an advantage that no other Ninth Order master enjoyed. The Dragon Clan stood at the top of the divine spirits after all, so it was only natural for them to possess incredible strength. Mo Na-yi was close at hand, and a howl burst from his lips. "Yong Kai, why are you calling my name?" Yong Kai sneered and took a step backwards. At the same time, his figure suddenly turned into an illusory phantom, and space principles fluctuated wildly. Mo Na-yi's fist landed on the illusory phantom, causing it to shatter. Unfortunately, Yong Kai was nowhere to be found by then. Yong Kai's laughter came from the distance. "Who can stop me if I am determined to eliminate your pseudo-royal lords?" Mo Na-yi turned and looked in the direction of Yong Kai's voice, only to see Yong Kai standing at the head of the Tao Strength River. The waters in the Tao Strength River were turbulent, churning and roiling violently. At a glance, it almost seemed as though Yong Kai was standing on top of a dragon. It was a magnificent and majestic sight to behold. If there was no other external aggression threatening the Black Ink clan, Mo Na-yi would not have allowed Yong Kai to be so arrogant. Unfortunately, the human race army was pressing their attack, and there were still many universe worlds threatening to impact the no-return pass. Even now, Mo Na-yi was powerless to rescue the two pseudo-royal lords who were captured earlier. Yong Kai glanced at Mo Na-yi coldly, and then he turned around and plunged into the river. In the next moment, the movements within the space-time river became more turbulent. It was evident that masters were fighting inside. Just 10 breaths later, Yong Kai's figure appeared once more with a corpse in each hand. It was none other than the two pseudo-royal lords whom he dragged into the river previously. All the Black Ink clansmen who witnessed the scene couldn't help feeling a sense of sympathy for their comrades. The war had yet to begin in earnest, but the Black Ink clan had already lost two pseudo-royal lords. While there were indeed many pseudo-royal lords, their numbers would not be enough to endure for long at this rate. What happened next terrified the Black Ink clan even more. Yong Kai held up the corpses of the two pseudo-royal lords in a demonstrative manner. Then he casually tossed them aside and withdrew the space-time river. In the next moment, his figure vanished out of sight once more. The pseudo-royal lords were in mortal danger, and the realization caused a chill to run down their backs. Moreover, They all now felt that Yong Kai was watching them intently from the shadows, harboring malicious intentions towards them. Contrary to the reaction of the Black Ink clan, the morale of the human race army increased sharply after they witnessed Yong Kai infiltrating the enemy camp alone and reaping the lives of 2 pseudo-royal lords. The attacks shooting out from the human race army and towards the no-return pass became more vicious and concentrated as a result. Furthermore, the human race masters all rolled up their sleeves and prepared to display their respective talents on the battlefield during the coming battle. The barrage of universe worlds also continued. Even though most were destroyed en route, the efforts of the human race army to suppress the Black Ink clan forced the latter to allocate more of their energy towards their own defenses instead. In this situation, they were strong in will, but weak in strength. They simply could not maintain their efforts to intercept the incoming universe worlds. Besides, none of the pseudo-royal lords dared to exert their full strength after witnessing Yong Kai's flashy demonstration. Every one of them held back, slightly in case of any unforeseen circumstances. Mo Na Yi knew that they had fallen for Yong Kai's tricks. Yong Kai had not infiltrated the enemy camp alone to demonstrate his bravery. Rather, his main purpose was to distract the masters from the Black Ink clan. Despite knowing Yong Kai's intentions, Mo Na Yi could not force the pseudo-royal lords to ignore their own safety and go all out. There was no guarantee that Yong Kai would not attack once more if they let down their defenses. What seemed real could be fake, and what was fake could become real. It could be said that Yong Kai's attack had tied the hands of all the masters of the Black Ink clan. Yong Kai was the only person among the entire human race who could achieve such a feat. The defense line outside the no-return pass was created with the damaged great passes that were abandoned by the human race army in the past as the foundation, and a large number of artifacts had been constructed on these great passes. But the Black Ink disciples were not very adept at artifact refining. After all, those who were proficient in artifact refining generally contributed to the war efforts from the safety of the rear. As they rarely stepped onto the battlefield, they avoided the fate of being captured by the Black Ink clan and converted into Black Ink disciples. It was for that reason that the artifacts prepared in advance by the Black Ink clan were far inferior to those possessed by the humans in terms of both power and attack range. When the human race army first started approaching the no-return pass, the Black Ink clan masters in charge of operating the artifacts could only watch as the enemy marched forward. The defensive artifacts could be activated at any time, but their effects were extremely limited. It was not until the human race army entered the attack range of these artifacts that countless lights began to blaze from the abandoned great passes that surrounded the external perimeter of the no-return pass. Be that as it may, these attacks were nothing to the enormous human fleet. Aside from causing some slight trouble to part of the human army, they did not play an essential role in the war. It did not take long for the human race army to target and suppress them instead. Many gaps had appeared along the middle of the defensive line due to the constant collision of the universe worlds. When the last few universe worlds finally arrived at the no-return pass and detonated, the gap in the defense line only became bigger. At the same time, the human race army deployed a massive number of troops straight towards the gaps without the slightest hesitation. It was clear that they were aiming to use these gaps in the Black Ink clan's lines to rout the Black Ink clan's defense entirely. If they succeeded, then they could march right in and conquer the no-return pass without obstruction. The no-return pass currently contained all of the high-rank Black Ink nests of the Black Ink clan. If the human race army invaded the no-return pass, the high-rank Black Ink nests would inevitably suffer extensive losses, regardless of the outcome of the battle. There was no question that such losses would affect the production of more Black Ink clansmen, as well as the healing of their masters. How could Mo Na Yi allow such a thing to happen? He immediately mobilized many masters and led the Black Ink army to intercept those invaders. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5875. The first attack on the No Return Pass. Marshall Peak, the opening of the first battle of the No Return Pass, was fought at long range. And although the humans gained a huge advantage, it did not fundamentally change the situation. To really retake the No Return Pass, they still had to rely on their soldiers to engage in close-quarter combat with the Black Ink Clan, the Blood Flame, Wolf Fong, Soaring Cloud, Burning Moon, Azure Dawn, and Jade Cicada armies flooded over like a raging tidal wave, pouring through the gaps in the Black Ink Clan defense line. The remaining 6 armies continued their assault from the left and right flanks of the No Return Pass, holding down the Black Ink Clan masters and army as best they could. As the human army continued to tighten its encirclement, the battle between the two sides became more and more intense. There were constant sounds of death all across the battlefield from both the Black Ink Clan and the humans, across the vast conflict zone. Aside for the few masters who stood at the pinnacle, the might of an individual became insignificant. However, the synergistic power of combined forces became more than simple numbers would imply. When this was applied on the battlefield, a scenario of death by 1,000 cuts became a reality. The Black Ink Clan tried their best to stem the attack, but the strain they were under from the outset of the battle caused their response to be weaker than the opponents. Their resistance only lasted less than half an hour before the 6 human race armies broke through the defense perimeter and stormed through the gaps. The human soldiers soon reached the broken Great Passes, which once belonged to the human race but had been abandoned for thousands of years. Warships sailed through and struck the enemy with secret techniques and artifacts while dodging the enemy's counterattacks with astonishing agility. This was the first battle of the human race Grand Army at the No Return Pass, so they needed to achieve a spectacular victory. Mi Jingluan did not expect to retake the No Return Pass in one fell swoop. After all, that was simply unrealistic. Nevertheless, momentum and morale were key factors in winning any war. The ultimate goal of the battle was determined even before the army was mobilized: inflict maximum damage on the enemy while minimizing their own casualties. With such an objective, the human warships did not act as lone squads, but rather moved as battalions. Squad worked in units of 8 or 9, protecting each other, advancing and retreating together so that they could maximize the advantages of the warships and attack the enemy while preserving themselves. The masters of the two sides had also taken action against each other. The Eighth Order Masters, Territory Lords, and Pseudo-Royal Lords all opened up separate battlefields where they aimed to slaughter each other. The humans now had many more Eighth Order Masters than the Black Ink Clan had Territory Lords. Thousands of years ago, the situation was completely different. At that time, the Eighth Order Masters struggled to resist the swarm of Territory Lords and fought every battle with all their might to kill the enemy, every time receiving various hard-to-recover from wounds. Oh, Yonglai, for example, was afraid to take the supreme grade open heaven pill given to him by Yonkai because of the accumulation of such wounds in his body. He was concerned that he might fail in his breakthrough and waste a chance for a potential Ninth Order Master. In the end, he succeeded and reached the Ninth Order, becoming Army Commander of Profound Nether Army. Back when the situation of the humans was critical, the Profound Nether battlefield was nearly captured by the Black Ink Clan because they lacked top masters. The main reason why they were able to hold out at the time was because the Eighth Order Masters were bold enough to put their lives on the line when they went to war. Additionally, they had battle formations and warships to assist them. However, all of this was not enough to counter the Black Ink Clan's overwhelming numerical advantage. It was not until Yang Kai stepped in and forced the Black Ink Clan to sign a truce that the situation of the Eighth Order Masters became better. Otherwise, many more veteran Eighth Order Masters would have died. Today, after thousands of years of accumulation, the heritage of the human race has become unprecedentedly strong. There were numerous rising stars who had become Eighth Order Masters, and now Eighth Order Masters completely outnumbered the Territory Lords and were capable of completely suppressing them. Moreover, the strength of an acquired Territory Lords was generally inferior to that of an Eighth Order Master, not to mention their lesser numbers. However, the Black Ink clan also had a great number of pseudo-royal lords on their side. Each pseudo-royal lord had the ability to deal with a 5 elements or even 6 paths formation formed by Eighth Order Masters. Worse, in order to defend against Yang Kai, pseudo-royal lords would group in 3s to form their own battle formations, making them much more difficult to deal with. Except for the Ninth Order Masters, who could deal with the 3 fortunes formation formed by pseudo-royal lords, the Eighth Order Masters had to assume a 5 elements or even 6 paths formation to deal with a single pseudo-royal lord. In other words, 3 pseudo-royal lords in a battle formation would keep around 20 or even more Eighth Order Masters occupied, which greatly compensated for the lack of Territory Lords. However, due to their fear of Yang Kai, none of the pseudo-royal lords in their respective formations dared to use all their strength. All of them reserved some of their strength and diverted part of their attention to guard against Yang Kai's sneak attack. Therefore, from how it looked, the Eighth Order Masters in battle formations had the upper hand over the pseudo-royal lords also in battle formations. This situation was quite bizarre. As soon as the human race army bypassed the Great Pass's defensive line, they immediately set about annihilating everything they could reach. Soldiers of both sides scattered on the vast battlefield and fought so violently that the void trembled under their collective impact. Blooms of evil purging divine spears appeared everywhere, resulting in the Black Ink clan suffering terrible losses. The human stockpile of evil purging divine spears was fully distributed for this battle, as there was no need to worry about supplies anymore. The human race was going all out for this battle. Not long after the 6 human race armies attacking overwhelmed the Black Ink clan defense line, the 6 remaining armies on the left and right flanks also broke through the Black Ink clan's defense line, circumventing the broken Great Passes and meeting the Black Ink clan in close quarters. The whole area outside the no-return pass was now embroiled in the flames of war. MOU? A roar suddenly sounded from somewhere in the void, and with that roar, a magnificent figure crashed through the Black Ink clan's blockade with unstoppable power. As MOU said to Mo Na Yi before the battle, once the fighting started, the Ninth Order Masters would definitely come to him. According to the information that the humans had, he and Mo Na Yi were the only 2 royal lords. Thus, suppressing them would greatly benefit the humans in battle. Mou's prophecy came true when he was approached by none other than Xiang Shan. Mou was prepared for such a situation, and now that Xiang Shan had called him out, he would not avoid the fight. After Xiang Shan's roar, Mou rushed out from the no-return pass, his Black Ink strength surging as it transformed into a huge Black Ink cloud that covered the sky and enveloped the approaching enemy. A fierce struggle began within the Black Ink cloud before swiftly moving outside the no-return pass. A battle between a Ninth Order Master and a Royal Lord was so intense that if they did not move away from the main battlefield, there would be severe collateral damage to both the humans and the Black Ink clan. Mo Na Yi? Another roar came from the human race army. Seeing that Xiang Shan had successfully lured Mou away, Yang Lai was ready to take on the other royal lord. According to their original plan, as long as he pinned down Mo Na Yi, then the 2 royal lords would be too busy to coordinate the Black Ink clan, including the 2 Black Ink giant spirit gods. Thus, even if they were not able to kill the 2 royal lords, the entire Black Ink clan army would become leaderless. However, as soon as Yang Lai moved, a group of pseudo-royal lords in a 3 fortunes formation blocked his way. There were more Eighth Order Masters in the profound Nether army to help, But the Black Ink clan also had territory lords and the other pseudo-royal lords who were moving towards them. With Yonglai at the center, human and Black Ink clan masters engaged in a ruthless melee. Yonglai was so angry that he shouted as he fought with the three pseudo-royal lords, "Emo Nai, if you have the guts, come out and fight with me alone." However, no matter how much Yonglai shouted, Emo Nai remained unperturbed and ignored him as he remained inside the no-return pass to oversee the situation. With a huge potential threat like Yang Kai lurking in the shadows, Emo Nai would not care about Yonglai. From his standpoint, the biggest threat from the humans was Yang Kai. While the human race army attacked from three sides, Yang Kai was repeatedly using both Thunder Shadow's innate divine ability and his own space-time river. Needless to say, he made gains almost every time he struck. All pseudo-royal lords throughout the battlefield were his prey. Even though the pseudo-royal lords were in battle formations and were vigilant of their surroundings, they were still caught off guard when Yang Kai suddenly appeared and struck them. If they were lucky, they could block Yang Kai's attacks and save themselves. However, if they were unlucky, as many as three pseudo-royal lords would be caught in his space-time river, and the Black Ink clan knew exactly what would happen once they fell into the raging waters. Yang Kai weaved through the battlefield, swiftly moving from one success to the next. Each time he found an opening, he dove in to kill the cornered pseudo-royal lords. Within a short time, more than a dozen pseudo-royal lords had been killed by these successive ambushes. It could be said that Yang Kai alone had done more than all the other Ninth Order Masters combined. This was a huge loss for the Black Ink clan, and Emo Nai was getting desperate, but there was nothing he could do about it. He had been trying to keep track of Yang Kai's whereabouts, but with such a huge battlefield and Yang Kai's quick and unpredictable movements, it was impossible to do so. Seeing that the situation was getting out of control, Emo Nai knew that things would reach a critical breaking point if he did not do something. He gritted his teeth and looked up at the lofty Great Pass in the void. Pure Yang Pass, which Yang Kai took away from the No-Return Pass some 20 years ago, had now become the location of the human race's supreme headquarters. It was where their supreme commander, Mi Jing Luan, remained and directed the fights on the entire battlefield. After the 12 armies of the human race were fully engaged, Pure Yang Pass became very conspicuous as it remained outside of the battlefield. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5876, Battle of Wits. Marshall Peak, the battlefield was vast and chaotic. In such a situation, it was impossible even for the Ninth Order Masters to know what was happening everywhere at all times. Once there was no central coordination and control, the humans' 12 armies were bound to fail even if they broke through all the Black Ink clan's defenses. The Ninth Order Master leading each of their armies also had to fight and did not have much spare energy to observe the general situation. This situation only exacerbated when the armies broke through the initial defenses of the Black Ink clan, as they were then thrown into a chaotic melee, and no longer had a structured formation which was easy to coordinate. Once communications broke down, the situation of each army became more dangerous. If the humans needed help at a particular battlefield, forces needed to be redistributed to maximize benefits without causing detriments. If the humans could exploit the weakness of the Black Ink clan defense, then they could reap twice the results with half the effort. To achieve all this, the 12 armies needed a pair of eyes that could overlook the entire battlefield. It had to be a calm and intelligent mind who could transmit battlefield orders rapidly. The Supreme Headquarters played this role. The soldiers at the Great Pass could see the whole battlefield clearly and quickly reported the situation from all positions, while Mi Jingluan and his staff were responsible for analyzing the intelligence and formulating plans in the shortest possible time. In this way, the 12 armies would be able to coordinate perfectly as a single unit to pose a deadly threat to the Black Ink clan in the No-Return Pass. This time, the humans came prepared for the battle. Even the intelligent Mo-Na-Yi did not expect that the human race would use tactics such as throwing universe worlds filled with arrays to punch through the Black Ink clan's defensive perimeter, causing the Black Ink clansmen in the No-Return Pass to suffer a considerable loss. Together with Yang Kai's unpredictable ambushes and ruthless kills, the pseudo-royal lords were all at their wits' end. If Yang Kai continued to cut down the pseudo-royal lords when their number fell below a certain limit, the Black Ink clan may not be able to stop the humans even if they went all out. Therefore, from Black Ink clan's standpoint, they had to find a way to break the humans' current momentum. Mo-Na-Yi had a direct interest in Pyongyang Pass, or more directly, in Mi Jingluan. Mo-Na-Yi had never underestimated the importance of Mi Jingluan and the Supreme Headquarters, and had wanted to find a chance to slaughter them all for many years. But unfortunately, Mi Jingluan had not ever appeared on the frontline battlefields, so he could not do anything about him. It was a good opportunity, now that the humans were attacking the No-Return Pass. However, Pyongyang Pass was going to pose some problems. Although this great pass had not yet displayed its power, it was clearly repaired and refurbished over the past 20 or so years. Mo-Na-Yi could not estimate how much of its original power Pyongyang Pass could display at the moment, but he did not doubt that if it was brought into the battle, it would cause a huge breakthrough for the human race, and the Black Ink clan would have to pay a huge price to stop it. Even before the fighting started, Mo-Na-Yi had thought about attacking Pyongyang Pass, and since things had come to this point, it was time for him to act boldly. Many thoughts flashed through his mind as Mo-Na-Yi's divine sense surged, sending commands in all directions. The next moment, the Black Ink clan army on the battlefield suddenly turned from defense to offense, and many of them rushed towards the human warships. The warships were caught off guard by this sudden onslaught, and many were blown to pieces across the battlefield. The human soldiers inside now did not have the protection of their warships and were quickly swamped by the boundless Black Ink clan soldiers. Only a few managed to escape by virtue of their strong cultivation. The scene looked like a group of sharks tearing at their bleeding prey. The nearby human soldiers quickly moved to provide assistance, but this barely stabilized the situation. At that moment, Mo-Na-Yi, who had been watching from the No-Return Pass, lunged forward. Along with him, 12 other figures rushed out from the No-Return Pass. Judging from the unmistakable auras, those were 12 pseudo-royal lords. There were numerous Black Ink clan's pseudo-royal lords. Not all of them were deployed to the battlefield in the previous wars. It was estimated that only 70% of them fought on the battlefield, while the remaining 30% were recuperating in the No-Return Pass. They did this to preserve their strength and to guard the No-Return Pass. After all, Yang Kai could turn up at any moment to harass them, so Mo-Na-Yi did not dare to relax his vigilance. If Yang Kai rushed into the No-Return Pass and stirred up chaos, the high-rank Black Ink nests would be decimated. So even though 12 more pseudo-royal lords were coming out of the No-Return Pass, there were still a good number of pseudo-royal lords engaged in the main battle. Mo-Na-Yi attacked together with the 12 pseudo-royal lords along with a large army of 1 million Black Ink clansmen, including many feudal lords and territory lords. This conspicuous army rushed towards the disrupted human lines, and even though the human army at that location tried their best to intercept them, they were unable to contain the enemy thrust. The human defensive line was torn apart by the Black Ink clan attack in a short while. 1 million bloodthirsty and ruthless Black Ink clan soldiers flowed through the gap like a torrent. Led by Mo-Na-Yi and the 12 pseudo-royal lords, they charged straight towards the direction of Pyongyang Pass, their objective obvious to all. The humans on the nearby battlefield saw this, and although they wanted to intercept, they were unable to. In the next moment, Mo-Na-Yi, who was leading the army, suddenly stopped while the 12 pseudo-royal lords and the million-strong army continued their rampage. as if they were not aware of this and still charged in the direction of Pure Yang Pass. Mo Nai turned his head and shouted in the direction of the no-return pass, Yang Kai. He thought that if he showed any intention of attacking Pure Yang Pass, Yang Kai would definitely show up and stop him. However, Mo Nai never thought that the cunning Yang Kai would instead head straight for the no-return pass. Before the pseudo-royal lords at the no-return pass could react, he quickly destroyed 2 high-rank black ink nests. The pseudo-royal lords were not to be blamed for this, as they had no way to conceal their auras. Thus, they all stuck out like cranes among chickens in Yang Kai's senses. All he needed to do was to choose the places where the pseudo-royal lord's defenses were the weakest, and then he could do whatever he wanted. It was only then that several pseudo-royal lords nearby reacted and rushed to stop Yang Kai, starting a huge fight with him. This battle rocked the no-return pass, and the fallout was devastating, decimating several more high-rank black ink nests. Mo Nai quickly turned around and headed for the no-return pass, with his heart aching over the losses. Like the pseudo-royal lords, the high-rank black ink nest could not be replaced. Without these high-rank black ink nests, how could the black ink clans create more soldiers? If the high-rank black ink nests were all destroyed, the black ink clan of the no-return pass would become a river without a source. Their defeat would be inevitable once that happened. By the time Mo Nai rushed back to the no-return pass and entered the battlefield, 6 high-rank black ink nests had already been destroyed. Upon seeing this, Mo Nai bellowed, "Leave one formation behind. The others guard the black ink nests." Upon hearing his order, the pseudo-royal lords who were ordered to stay with Mo Nai joined him in battling Yang Kai, while the rest of the pseudo-royal lords formed 3 fortunes formations to guard their surrounding areas. Yang Kai did not continue his attacks on the no-return pass. Instead, he took a step back, dashed past the group of pseudo-royal lords as he glared at Mo Nai. The 3 pseudo-royal lords did not dare to chase after him, but approached Mo Nai and stood beside him. At this moment, Mo Nai looked at Yang Kai with his eyes blazing and gritted his teeth. "Bastard!" Yang Kai smiled smugly and taunted, "Why do you look so bitter? You deployed your troops against Pure Yang Pass, and you expect me not to do anything? Wasn't your intention to draw me out? You should be happy that you achieved your goal." Mo Nai looked at him with a deep frown, and his anger slowly eased as he said with a frown, "You saw through my intentions." However, he was not faking his anger. Since the beginning of the war, more than a dozen pseudo-royal lords had been killed by Yang Kai, and now half a dozen high-rank black ink nests had been smashed. Even if Mo Nai had a steady temperament, it was impossible for him not to be furious. However, his anger was not as intense as expected. Yang Kai raised his hand, pointed to his eyes, and asked as he glared, "Do you know what these are?" Mo Nai's mind raced and asked in return doubtfully, "What eyes?" Yang Kai replied, "I'm not blind." Mo Nai was flabbergasted. Although the battle was in full swing outside the no-return pass, 2 top masters were simply staring at each other inside the no-return pass. They just stared and talked to each other without fighting. However, the tension was very tense and treacherous. Moments later, Mo Nai quickly asked, "Has Mi Jinglun broken through to the 9th Order?" "What makes you think so?" Yang Kai asked with a puzzled expression. The Black Ink clan should not know about Mi Jinglun becoming a 9th Order master. Even if they found out about the 2 newly promoted 9th Order masters, it should have been impossible for Mo Nai to know Mi Jinglun had also broken through. Mo Nai replied with a shrug, "It's obvious. Originally, I had already guessed that Mi Jinglun might have become a 9th Order master. After the battle in the Universe Furnace world became a hunting ground for the humans. The humans might have obtained another supreme Great Open Heaven pill, and the most logical person to take it would be Mi Jinglun. But that was all only a guess. When I saw how you reacted just now, though, I became 80% certain. Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5877. Of course, I can Marshall Peak, so that's how it is. Yong Kai appeared to be enlightened. The attack on Pure Yang Pass was not only to lure me out, but also to verify your suspicions. After a pause, Yong Kai continued, your main purpose must be the latter. At this point, there was no point in denying it. As the 12 Pseudo-Royal Lords led a million-strong Black Ink clan army towards the Pure Yang Pass, which was outside the battlefield, there was no longer a way to hide the fact that Mi Jingluan had advanced to become a 9th Order Master. If Mi Jingluan was still only an 8th Order Master, Yong Kai would have to go to their rescue instead of boldly attacking the No-Return Pass. Since Yong Kai appeared in the No-Return Pass, it meant that he was at ease about Mi Jingluan's safety, and in such a large-scale battlefield, only a 9th Order Master was able to guarantee their own safety. Mo Na Yi shook his head and said, no, the main reason was still to lure you out and pin you down. Yong Kai, you must not underestimate yourself. Everyone from the Royal Lords down to the ordinary Black Ink clansman fears you deeply. Yong Kai grinned and replied, should I feel honored? Do as you please. I'm just speaking the truth. Mo Na Yi stared at Yong Kai, as did the 3 Pseudo-Royal Lords standing beside him. None of them let their guard down even when Mo Na Yi was having a conversation with Yong Kai, and any abnormal movement would result in a violent exchange between them. This was also the reason why Yong Kai was willing to stand here and chat with Mo Na Yi. Otherwise, he would have already used instantaneous movement to disappear to somewhere else on the battlefield to kill more enemies. However, Mo Na Yi had locked onto him using his aura. Thus, even if he tried to use instantaneous movement, it would have been disrupted. After a moment of silence, Yong Kai suddenly said, since you have guessed that Senior Brother Mi had become a 9th Order Master, aren't you worried about the safety of those Pseudo-Royal Lords? As they spoke, the 12 Pseudo-Royal Lords and the million-strong Black Ink clan army had already closed in on Pure Yang Pass. The two sides would clash violently at any moment. If Mi Jingluan was still an 8th Order Master, then the Black Ink clan would have had a great chance to capture the Great Pass and kill Mi Jingluan. However, now that Mo Na Yi knew that Mi Jingluan was already in the 9th Order, it made no sense for him to continue the attack. It was foolish for them to charge towards danger with no possibility of gains. Mo Na Yi couldn't make such a choice. However, that was exactly what he did. Mo Na Yi replied nonchalantly, why should I worry? Yong Kai frowned when he heard that. If he did not worry about the safety of his attacking army, then did that mean that the humans needed to worry? At that moment, he saw the Black Ink clan army from the No-Return Pass making a very different move. Just as they closed to the defensive perimeter of Pure Yang Pass, this army, led by 12 Pseudo-Royal Lords, suddenly turned around and charged back towards the battlefield. In that direction, human and Black Ink clan soldiers were in an evenly matched fight with neither side able to send reinforcements within a short period of time. A large army would be able to change the situation of that local battlefield and allow the Black Ink clan to gain the upper hand if they rushed over at this moment. Yong Kai's expression changed instantly and said, so this is your plan? Mo Na Yi ordered the 12 Pseudo-Royal Lords to lead a million-strong Black Ink clan army to attack Pure Yang Pass, hold Yong Kai back, and verify Mi Jingluan's advancement to the 9th Order. But his ultimate objective was to wheel around and attack the humans from behind to create an advantage for the Black Ink clan. Mo Na Yi. Yong Kai raged. Mo Na Yi just said that his main purpose was to hold Yong Kai back, which made him lower his guard. However, even that was a deception. Yong Kai was particularly annoyed with Mo Na Yi at this moment, who could somehow turn an unfavorable situation around with clever tactics and deliver a blow to his enemies they never expected. Yang Kai nearly died when he intercepted the innate territory lords who had escaped from primordial heaven's source grand restriction thanks to a similar scheme. If it was not for the universe furnace's sudden appearance at the critical moment, Yang Kai might not have survived. In pure Yang Pass, Mi Jingluan looked from the top of the walls at the Black Ink clan army, which was getting farther and farther away from pure Yang Pass. He then looked over in the direction of the no-return pass and sighed lightly. Seems I've been exposed. Before the battle began, he had thought of using himself as bait to lure the Black Ink clan to attack. His advancement to the Ninth Order was only now known to the higher-ups of the human race, while the Black Ink clan was totally unaware. Therefore, after the battle started, the 12 armies all pressed forward, leaving pure Yang Pass vulnerable outside the battlefield. This was to send a message to the Black Ink clan and Mo Na Yi. The supreme headquarters is on pure Yang Pass, and Mi Jingluan is also on pure Yang Pass. As long as the Black Ink clan could take down pure Yang Pass, then the humans would become blind and deaf. When that happened, regardless of how strong the humans were, even if they could recapture the supreme headquarters, they would eventually be defeated. This deception was initially successful. Mo Na Yi had an army charge towards pure Yang Pass, but just when they were about to engage each other, the pseudo-royal lords leading the way turned around and flew back to the battlefield. Their target had always been the human race army. If Black Ink clan defeated the humans at their targeted spot, then the Black Ink clan army would be able to gain a foothold and use that part of the battlefield to expand their advantage. No need to hide anymore. Let's fight. Mi Jingluan said softly. The next moment, numerous figures suddenly shot out from pure Yang Pass and chased after the Black Ink clan army, with the 12 pseudo-royal lords leading them. The two leading figures with powerful auras were the two newly promoted Ninth Order Masters of the human race. Right behind them were nearly 200 Eighth Order Masters. Mi Jingluan had used pure Yang Pass and himself as bait, so naturally he had made all the necessary arrangements. The garrison of pure Yang Pass might have seemed obvious at a glance, but under the cover of many concealment arrays, the two newly advanced Ninth Order Masters and a large group of Eighth Order Masters were quietly lying in wait. If the 12 pseudo-royal lords and the million-strong Black Ink clan troops dared to set foot on pure Yang Pass, they would end up with heavy casualties. For this reason, Mi Jingluan even hid Shi De Zhuang and Tang Tao from the public even when the battles began. However, now that they had been exposed, there was no longer any point in hiding them anymore. They were now Ninth Order Masters. Thus, it was time for them to play a role in the battlefield. The two Ninth Order Masters led some 200 Eighth Order Masters towards the Black Ink clan army, and although their numbers were far less than the enemy, their strength was comparable. The two Ninth Order Masters took point and charged into the enemy army, slicing through it like a hot knife through butter. Black blood splattered with body parts flying everywhere, leaving a trail of dead and dying Black Ink clansmen. It was only when the leading 12 pseudo-royal lords managed to intervene and blunt the human race masters' assault, halting the wanton slaughter of their subordinates. So, you had two more Ninth Order Masters. Mo Na Yi remarked calmly as he watched Yang Kai closely, able to sense the violent fallout from the clash even from where he stood. The sudden appearance of the two Ninth Order Masters' auras naturally did not escape his notice. Mo Na Yi was actually not surprised by this. Since Black Ink clan had a new royal lord, then the humans could also have new Ninth Order Masters. If he counted Mi Jingluan, the humans had 3 more Ninth Orders in just the last 20 years. It was unknown whether the two new appearances relied on their own accumulation of cultivation to break through, or did so with the help of supreme-grade open heaven pills. If it was the latter, then it did not matter, as the number of supreme-grade open heaven pills were limited and would eventually run out. However, if it was the former, then the situation was untenable. The human race had produced several new Ninth Order masters, while the Black Ink clan only gained one new royal lord. It was obvious which side had the advantage, and time would only exacerbate the situation. The Black Ink clan is doomed. Yang Kai taunted. Mo Na Yi scoffed and replied, "Brother Yang underestimates my Black Ink clan." Oh. Yang Kai frowned and continued, "Is it possible that a new royal lord appeared in the Black Ink clan? Which one is it? Why doesn't he introduce himself?" Mo Na Yi maintained a straight face. "If that is the case, you will find out eventually." The answer was so flat and plain it was difficult for Yang Kai to determine if there was a new royal lord in the Black Ink clan or not. He had carefully checked all parts of the no-return pass previously, but did not find anything. He had an ominous feeling when he came to the no-return pass, but could not be sure based on that feeling alone. There were so many masters from the Black Ink clan at the no-return pass right now, so if he was not careful, he could find himself in a critical situation regardless of the truth. So, Mo Na Yi lowered his eyes, and his tone suddenly lowered. "That's the end of the small talk." Yang Kai raised his brow and asked, "Is it time to fight? No more stalling? I see that your pseudo-royal lords seem to be secretly setting up something. If it's not properly set up, we can chat a while longer." His completely nonchalant attitude made Mo Na Yi's flaming rage burst out as he roared, "Yang Kai, you arrogant bastard, do you really think that the no-return pass is a place where you can come and go as you wish?" Yang Kai looked at him seriously for a long time, and then said, "This is the territory of the human race. So, of course, I can come and go as I please. Prove it." As soon as Mo Na Yi finished his sentence, the no-return pass hummed in all directions, as if there was an invisible power swept through it. In the next instant, this huge stretch underwent a subtle change. This change was extremely inconspicuous, and it was difficult for ordinary people to notice, but Yang Kai only had to scan around to know what happened. He frowned slightly and remarked, "You improved the heaven-sealing earth-locking array?" Marshall Peak. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5878. The Battle of Courage. Marshall Peak, the Black Ink clan, always wanted to use the 4 Gates, 8 Palaces Great Pagoda Array to deal with Yang Kai. However, the Spirit Array was a bit troublesome to set up and could not be done so quickly. On several occasions, the Black Ink clan would be in the middle of setting up the array when Yang Kai suddenly dashed away or interfered. They could only hope for Yang Kai to stay somewhere long enough for them to finish setting up the array. For example, the first time the Black Ink clan used the 4 Gates, 8 Palaces Great Pagoda Array was in the Divine Spirit Ancestral Land. They managed to block the entire Divine Spirit Ancestral Land with it, and a pseudo-royal lord personally led numerous innate territory lords to attack and kill Yang Kai. It would have been disastrous for Yang Kai had he not taken advantage of Ancestral Land's favorable conditions, and if the pseudo-royal lord had been more measured. Without the heaven-sealing, earth-locking array, there was no way to limit Yang Kai's space secret techniques, and without limiting his space secret techniques, they had no chance to kill him. While Yang Kai was chatting with Mo Na Yi, some pseudo-royal lords were sneaking around in the background, which Yang Kai naturally noticed. Now, the Black Ink clan had turned the entire no-return pass into a huge trap, compared to the previous 4 Gates, 8 Palaces Great Pagoda Array. The current array was undoubtedly better hidden and covered a wider area. Without Yang Kai noticing, the array had already been activated. Damn. Yang Kai cursed in contempt. Mo Na Yi coldly snorted. "Don't you humans have a saying, if you often walk next to the river, how can your shoes not get wet? You went on 3 rampages in the no-return pass already. Do you really think that I won't learn from those failures and prepare for today? That's why you always stayed in the no-return pass, so that you could trap me here when I came again. It's unbelievable that the Black Ink clan has a talent capable of this. This kind of improvement to the array could only be done by one who had a high attainment in the Tao of spirit arrays. The Black Ink clan had numerous Black Ink disciples, but they did not have many who were skilled in the Tao of spirit arrays and Tao of artifact refining. Thus, they were still vastly inferior compared to the humans. However, it had been so many years that if those array masters worked hard enough, they could achieve some gains. It's too late now. Mo Na Yi raised his hand and pointed at Yang Kai. Today, you will be buried here. Yang Kai glanced around and said grimly, "Aren't you afraid that the high-rank Black Ink nests in the no-return pass will be destroyed if we fight here?" This was where the Black Ink clan's foundation was located. Although there were still a large number of masters, the presence of the high-rank Black Ink nests here was also a constraint for the Black Ink clan. "That's why I only let 3 pseudo-royal lords come to assist me," Mo Na Yi replied indifferently. Yang Kai looked surprised for a moment before he nodded. "So that's how it is." There were many pseudo-royal lords at the no-return pass, but only 3 were participating directly in the battle together with Mo Na Yi while the others remained at their posts. They were responsible for guarding the high-rank Black Ink nests in their respective areas. None of them could stand up to Yang Kai, but they were more than capable of blocking some shockwaves from hitting the nests. With them stationed here, the high-rank Black Ink nests would most likely not be affected. "Of course, if necessary," Mo Na Yi said with determination, "there can be more pseudo-royal lords to deal with you." Simply said, "I am prepared to do whatever it takes to kill you today." From these words alone, one could see Mo Na Yi's determination to eradicate Yang Kai. There was nothing left to say as everything was in place on the Black Ink clan's side. As such, Yang Kai simply decided to follow the flow. He slightly raised his hand, summoned the Azure Dragon Spear, and clenched its shaft. As his Tao's strength stirred, the space-time river began to coil around the long spear. His fighting spirit began to boil, and his killing intent surged. Yang Kai held the spear, pointed it forward, and proclaimed, "Then let's see how many of your masters I kill before I fall. Begin." Mo Na Yi and the 3 pseudo-royal lords lunged forward simultaneously and attacked Yang Kai from opposite sides. Yang Kai immediately thrust the Azure Dragon Spear forward, sending out a spear shadow filled with Tao strengths so powerful that it terrified the pseudo-royal lords. The spear sliced a pseudo-royal lord's body, drew some black blood, and continued its momentum towards Mo Na Yi's face. Mo Na Yi roared, and his Black Ink strength surged, turning into a protective layer covering his body. However, that barrier was directly pierced by the long spear. At the critical moment, Mo Na Yi raised his arm and managed to deflect the spear away from his body. The tip of the spear still scratched Mo Na Yi's face, and Yang Kai swiftly made a sweep with it, sending the former flying with a powerful strike. Yang Kai was about to give chase when he felt a powerful force coming at him from behind. It was the 3 pseudo-royal lords who attacked together, forcing him to draw back his spear to defend himself. Mo Na Yi quickly regained his balance but still appeared bewildered. The last time he faced Yang Kai head-on was in the Universe Furnace world when Yang Kai had just advanced to the 9th Order, and he had just become a royal lord. He was almost killed by Yang Kai back then, but Meng Ke sacrificed himself for the greater good and helped him to escape. It had been hundreds of years since that encounter. Now, fighting Yang Kai once again, Mo Na Yi suddenly found that this bastard seemed to be a lot stronger than back then. Of course, Yang Kai would certainly become stronger after hundreds of years, but likewise, Mo Na Yi was also much stronger than back then. Both of them still had serious injuries back when they first fought, so neither was able to display their peak strength. However, Yang Kai had now become much stronger than Mo Na Yi had expected. He knew how humans cultivated and understood, well, that a Ninth Order master required many years of accumulation to improve themselves. Thus, he could not figure out how Yang Kai managed to grow so much in just a few hundred years. Mo Na Yi thought that one group of 3 pseudo-royal lords together with himself would be enough to deal with Yang Kai, but now it seemed that was not sufficient. Unfortunately, he was not prepared to let more pseudo-royal lords come forward to fight against Yang Kai, as just adding more bodies may not help the situation. The 3 pseudo-royal lords who were already in a battle formation could only withstand Yang Kai's assault for 10 breaths before they started to crumble under his relentless attacks. They had previously fought with other Ninth Order masters and basically concluded that if they used a 3 fortunes formation, they would be able to contend with the enemy. Even if they were ultimately outmatched, they did not have to fear dying. However, this killing star seemed to be far more powerful than other Ninth Order masters. Fortunately, Mo Na Yi quickly came over to assist them. Even then, it was just barely enough to contend with Yang Kai. The pseudo-royal lords who were tasked with protecting the no-return pass saw this and became concerned and gloomy. It was impossible to realize how powerful Yang Kai was until one actually fought him. 3 pseudo-royal lords in a formation could compete with a Ninth Order master. That was the standard rule. But now, even with Mo Na Yi, who was a true royal lord, their power was barely enough to hold Yang Kai back. Yang Kai was even beginning to gain the upper hand over them, which was a terrifying sight to behold. The battle was fierce and ruthless. Several figures darted around as they fought throughout the no-return pass. Every single attack on Yang Kai was well coordinated and powerful, which showed how well prepared the Black Ink clan was for this confrontation. The pseudo-royal lords who were guarding the high-rank Black Ink nests were also able to block all the fallout, leaving the Black Ink nests untouched. As the battle dragged on, the 3 pseudo-royal lords who were fighting became wounded and drained, causing their strength to drop. At that moment, 3 other pseudo-royal lords flew out from the perimeter, formed a battle formation, and joined the fight. Once that happened, the 3 exhausted and wounded pseudo-royal lords made a feint and withdrew. Yang Kai remarked in slight surprise. So this is your plan? 3 fresh pseudo-royal lords replaced the 3 who were exhausted. This tag-team tactic was easy for the Black Ink clan to execute and sustain as they had enough pseudo-royal lords to rotate into the fight. As long as the 3 pseudo-royal lord replacements joined the battle smoothly, Yang Kai would constantly be under pressure. Since you're using this tactic, why don't you summon more pseudo-royal lords and fight together? Yang Kai asked as he thrust his spear at Mo Na Yi. Mo Na Yi dodged, coldly snorted, and counterattacked. There's no need for that. The array has been activated, and the no-return pass has been isolated. You want to take me down with minimal effort? That's a good plan. Yang Kai raised his brow as he continued his rush towards Mo Na Yi. Although I have to admit that this tactic is effective, you might have forgotten that there is a major flaw to it. Mo Na Yi asked indifferently. What? Yang Kai replied. The most crucial factor of this plan is you. After all, there is no one to replace you. So what? So, Yang Kai's aura suddenly changed and became exceedingly violent. All I have to do is kill you. Marshall Peak, that you're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.